Jobs report due out at 8:30 a.m. this morning. The U.S. economy is forecast to add 180,000 jobs. The jobless rate rising slightly to a still historically low 3.6%. Really pleased to bring in Chief Economist at Morning Consult this morning, John Leer, in the studio with me. Hi, John. Nice to see you.
Great to see you here.
On a jobs day. What are you expecting from the big labor market?
I think we'll continue to see pretty robust jobs growth. It's still early in the the impact of that spending contraction on jobs, I think, is going to take a little bit of time to work its way through the system. And the credit contraction that we're seeing on the banking system, again, I think it's a little premature for that to hit jobs right now.
So still strong but cooling.
That's right.
All right, still strong but cooling. The unemployment rate is expected to tick up. We talked to Neil Richardson yesterday from ADP, who's been talking about people coming off the sidelines, and that's a really good sign. That can help nudge up an unemployment rate. Is that something you're seeing?
We have started to see fewer adults say that things like COVID, things like childcare are limiting them from looking for work. So I think that's really encouraging. And in fact, the labor supply has really increased recently. I do get a little concerned about some of these higher income folks. I think it's hard to maybe feel too bad for them, but some of the folks who are working in the tech sector, some folks in the financial services sector as well, that's where I think some of the weaknesses are right now.
So that's where we're seeing layoffs, and that's
right.
where we're seeing those jobs being laid off. The labor market, though, has been overall pretty tight. That has kept wages up, and that has helped feed into the inflation story. A year into these aggressive rate hikes, where are we on the inflation story?
We've made a lot of progress. I think it's premature at this point to say that it's time for a victory lap. The Federal Reserve has rapidly raised interest rates. I think they're likely to pause going forward, but it's not clear to me that inflation necessarily is going to sort of directly fall in the next few months. We're likely to see some surprise, upside surprises.
All those rate hikes, I mean, there's a real concern that something's got to break. And maybe we've already seen that in First Republic and Silicon Valley Bank. But what about the pressure on the banking system from all of these rate hikes? Where are we, I guess, in the bank pressure story? I mean, I don't think it's a crisis. I think it's stress in the banking sector. How would you characterize it?
I would say on that front, it's still early days. What we know for sure is that there were some practices in the banking sector, particularly in these mid-sized, smaller state-run banks, that were not consistent with sort of sound risk management practices. And on top of that, after the Fed's recent report, we know that the Fed really wasn't watching and supervising these banks the way that they should be. So my expectation going forward is that you'll see more and more of these sort of issues, particularly on the credit side of things going forward, as the Fed steps in and starts to be a little bit more aggressive with lending standards. And banks, I think, as well, are trying to protect themselves.
Is it hurt the economy? Is it a
think
wider
so.
economic
Yeah,
story?
I think it will. And I think that's something that Powell acknowledged explicitly, that going forward, there's sort of two drivers of monetary policy right now, or credit conditions. It's both interest rates, which they directly set, but also credit conditions. And I think actually that's one of the areas where the Fed, unfortunately, I think sort of shot themselves in the foot, which is that credit conditions, they don't directly control. And so that's going to be a really big issue that's sort of an unknown going forward.
Speaking of shooting yourself in the foot, Washington, D.C. and the debt ceiling debate, where are we on that in terms of risk to the economy? I mean, we know it's terrible. How do you even prepare for that as an economist, trying to gauge what's going to happen?
It's something that historically has had sort of a very low probability, but then a very high impact if it does materialize. And I still think that's the case, although unfortunately, maybe the probability of this leading to something like a shutdown is higher than we would normally expect. If it were to happen, it would be really catastrophic. Both in the near term, you've got a government shutdown and all that near-term spending. Long term, the credibility of the United States is really what drives our ability to finance our debt and our ability to make investments in this country. That's, I think, what's at risk, and that's unfortunate.
I know. The probability should be zero, but it's not zero, and that's what's so aggravating. All right, John Leer, Morning Consult. Nice to see you. Have a